So beginning with lesson 1, we're going to start talking about lines. And there are different angle relationships that are formed when you take two parallel lines and you go across it with a transversal. That's one thing we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the relationships of those angles. And then you can also use the angle relationships to find missing angles. So when two lines are intersecting on a plane and they form a right angle, that's what we call a perpendicular line. And then two lines that never intersect are parallel lines. And we've already talked about that before. You should fill out the graphic organizer in your book so that you know that the symbols for what the symbols for parallel lines look like and perpendicular lines, what their definition is, how you draw them, and then also there's some real world examples for you to help you to remember the difference between perpendicular and parallel lines. So what I'm going to talk about now are the different vocabulary and aspects of parallel lines. As you can see, that when we're talking about a parallel line, you're going to see these two arrows, and that's telling you that it's a parallel line. And there's different relationships between angles. When you add up angles 1 and 2, that equals 180 degrees. And when you add up angle 4 and 3 is 180 degrees. Okay? The relationship is that angle 1 and angle 3 are equal. And angle 2 and angle 4 are equal. Those are called vertical angles. Okay? And you can remember it by it forming like a V here. So 1 and 3 are equal, 2 and 4 are equal, vertical angles. When you talk about angle 2, if these are parallel lines and that's a transversal, angle 2 is going to be equal to angle 6. Those are corresponding angles. And that means that angle 3 will equal angle 7, corresponding angles. 1 and 5 are equal, 4 and 8 are equal. All of those are corresponding angles. 1 and 7 are called alternate exterior angles, and they are equal because when you look at it, if 1 and 3 are equal and 3 and 7 are equal based on corresponding angles, 1 and 7 are equal. So 2 and 4 are equal, and 4 and 8 are equal, so 8 and 6 are equal. So vertical angles, alternate exterior angles, and then if we have alternate exterior angles, we're going to have alternate interior. As you can see, they alternate on the side, on each side of the transversal. So 3 and 5 are equal, and 4 and 6 are equal. Those are alternate interior angles because they're on the interior. 2 and 8 are alternate exterior angles, and they're also equal. Angles 1 and 5, because they're both on top on the same side of the transversal, will be equal, and they're called corresponding angles. Just like 3 and 7 are corresponding angles. They're both underneath on the same side of the transversal. 3 and 5 are alternate interior. They're both on the inside, and they're on alternate sides of the axis of the transversal. 4 and 6 are alternate interior angles. And 2 and 8 are alternate exterior because they're on either side of the transversal and they're on the very outside of the parallel lines. Sometimes they will have two measures of an angle, let's say like this. And we know that, let's say that this is 120 degrees. So we know that this whole angle here is going to be 60 degrees because the entirety is 180. And let's say they tell us that this part of the angle is 30. Then we know that that part of the angle is 30 because the whole measure is 60. So sometimes you have to use your logic to figure out that missing angle. So let's try to figure out the measures of the angles in this figure on page 374. It says that angle 2 is 135. That means that this whole angle here is 135. And because of the symbol right here of perpendicular lines, we know that angle 10 is 90. Which means that angle 9 is 45. Okay? So the measure of angle 9 is 45 degrees. And that's because 90 degrees plus 45 equals the 135, which, because of the vertical angles, the definition of vertical angles, if angle 2 is 135, this whole angle here is 135. And if you take away the 90, the measure 9 of the angle 9 is 45. Now, if we look at angle 2 being 135 using alternate interior angles, we can say that 7 is 135. And your justification will be alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles. So on the homework on page 375, you can see that we've got 2 parallel lines and 2 transversals. So you have to be careful that when you're looking at a transversal, you're relating the corresponding angles. So for example, the measure of angle 7, this angle right here, it's telling us that the measure of angle 11 is 137. This is 137. And angle 2 is 110. Okay? So if we look at this transversal right here, 110 is 2, so 8, because it's an alternate interior angle, is 110. And that means that angle 7 must be 70 because the entire angle is 180. So those are the kinds of relationships you can use to determine the measures of different angles of parallel lines.